felt that it was time that we added something new to the channel instead of just talking about the news all the time, which we're still going to do, but we still needed to add something else. So I sat around, I thought about it, I bought a ref jersey off of Amazon, and I thought, you know what? Let's start a new segment called Friday Night Feuds, where we look back on some of the most epic feuds, and there's a lot of them, throughout the world of rock and metal. It could be a situation of bands versus bands, band members versus other members, anything like that. And to kick off the very first ever Friday Night Feuds, we're going back to 2005 with Slipknot versus Burger King. Between 2004 and 2005, Burger King was gearing up to launch what was at the time a brand new menu item, chicken fries, and in an effort to promote the new item and get it off the ground, Burger King hired a marketing agency, Crispin, Porter, and Boguski. That first word, Crispin, is ridiculously hard to say. Anyways, but they had the marketing agency put together a campaign, and they reached out to Slipknot in September of 2004, who at that time, Slipknot were in the midst of the very, very lengthy Subliminal Versus tour. I read somewhere online that tour was like 250 plus dates. Here's the dates that they show on Wikipedia. 250 dates for a tour. It's always been a lot, but especially now when you look at how long tours are now, or how short they can be rather, 250 plus dates is ridiculous. And apparently the campaign was initially a Burger King ad campaign to motivate young people to vote. And there was some discussion between Slipknot and the ad agency for a few weeks, and the idea of filming Slipknot live in London on stage in October of 2004 was also discussed, but ultimately Slipknot rejected the partnership as they didn't really want to be aligned with Burger King. And then aside from Slipknot, the ad agency also reached out to the punk band The Bronx about taking part in the campaign, with frontman Matt Coughtrin telling Kerrang in 2018, when The Bronx were doing the second album, we had the opportunity to do a Burger King commercial for their chicken fries. It was for something ridiculous like $120,000. We were supposed to write this song, and they would put masks on the band and no one would know it was us. We didn't feel comfortable about it, so another band did it. And a quick sidebar, I just realized while writing the video that all of the Bronx's albums are self-titled. Every single album they have is just called The Bronx, so you can only recognize each album by the artwork on it, though thankfully, at least on streaming, the albums are numbered, but it's a crazy thing to have all of your albums named after your band. Anyways, though, with both bands saying no, and who knows, it could have been more bands than just Slipknot and The Bronx, but either way, Burger King decided to take matters into their own hands, and they put their own band together called Coq Roq. Yes, you heard that right. Burger King put together a fake band literally called Coq Roq, which is just absolutely amazing. Coq Roq is spelled C-O-Q-R-O-Q. Although, you know, what's funny is that I never actually have heard any of the ads say Coq Roq. There's text in the ad that says it. They show the band name, C-O-Q-R-O-Q, but it's never actually said out loud. But anyways, the band Coq Roq featured lead singer Foulmouth, bassist Free Range, the Talisman on lead guitar, rhythm guitarist Kabuki, drummers Subsonic, and Firebird as the band's fire breather, who I guess in the band must have been the one that was cooking the chicken fries. I really just cannot get over the fact that the name Coq Roq was approved by the higher up executives at Burger King. It's a very, very wild thing to think about. But then again, that was the 2000s for you. Anything went, and they really did go balls out with the ad campaign. They had concert footage of the band with dancers, a Coq Roq tour bus showing these wild backstage parties, the whole bit, with all of the typical rock star lifestyle stereotypes. It really is an incredible thing to witness. And Coq Roq ended up recording 4 songs for the campaign. They had Bob Your Head, One-Armed Bandit, Cross the Road, and Nice Box. Which honestly, I mean, that sounds like a Steel Panther song, Nice Box. And I'm not gonna lie, some of these Coq Roq songs are bangers, and they kind of remind me a little bit of Brides of Destruction. which if you don't remember, that was a sort of a super group with Nikki Sixx and Tracy Guns. It was also around that same time in the mid-2000s, and ironically enough, Brides of Destruction was almost named Cockstar, so really along the same lines of Coq Roq, to be honest. But anyways, with the campaign in full force, Slipknot, of course, saw the ads and they took issue with Coq Roq, and in August of 2005, their attorney sent a cease and desist to Burger King and the ad agency that in part reads, "It is obvious that the television advertising and website are designed to conjure up the image and persona of a live performance of Slipknot. In addition to capturing the flavor and high energy intensity of a Slipknot performance, the members of Coq Roq wear masks that include a gas mask as worn by Slipknot's Sid Wilson, a kabuki style mask as worn by Slipknot's Joey Jordison, and a mask with dreads as worn by Slipknot's Corey Taylor." And it's interesting that Corey is misspelled here and spelled without the E, which I believe is how it's spelled all throughout the Slipknot attorney's letter, except for the first time that he's mentioned where it's spelled correctly with the E. But, you know, I mean, that's probably just being nitpicky. But it's interesting that the band's own attorney misspells Corey's name, especially multiple times throughout. But anyways, I digress. And that letter from the attorney also brings up that they were initially approached the year before about the possibility of doing that London show and all that stuff that we talked about at the beginning of the video. You can read the full letter from the attorney from the Smoking Gun. I'll put a link to that down below. And the one other thing that I want to point out is that Slipknot's attorney also says that there was apparently confusion amongst fans as to their affiliation with Burger King. It says, "Internet message boards and other communications from Slipknot fans have already demonstrated actual confusion among Slipknot fans as to Slipknot's affiliation with Burger King, including the belief and criticism that Slipknot authorized the use of its image, persona, and sound for Burger King commercials." I would absolutely love to read those message boards and see who was actually mixing up Slipknot and Coq Roq, or thinking that Slipknot was even involved. I mean, come on, look at the two. And then listen to any Coq Roq song and tell me how it sounds like Slipknot at all. It feels a bit stretched, to be honest. I mean, you know, maybe, I guess, you know, it's kind of like a Slipknot at home situation, as someone on Reddit pointed out. And to be fair, I guess maybe seeing the Burger King commercial on an old CRT TV, certainly not the best quality, so maybe, but still, I don't think so. Probably not. But unsurprisingly, Burger King then countersued Slipknot, in part stating that Slipknot is not the only band to wear masks or makeup. Here's what they said. "The Coq Roq band is a mock heavy metal band that is markedly and obviously different from Slipknot, except for the generic fact that both play heavy metal music and wear masks. Many bands wear masks and or makeup to accomplish a mask-like effect, including but not limited to the bands Kiss, Gwar, Insane Clown Posse, Mushroomhead, Mudvayne, Marilyn Manson, Los Straitjackets, and the Spits." Burger King's attorneys then go on to state that Slipknot themselves had previously acknowledged the quote-unquote generic nature of masks in the past, and they cite a specific interview that Joey Jordison did in 2004, although they don't cite exactly what interview it is, or I would link it down below. But anyways, where Joey apparently was asked how he felt about bands such as Mudvayne and Mushroomhead, who seem to have copied Slipknot's style, with them including Joey's response to that question, in which he says, "I have no problem with both bands. I like both of those bands. You know, there's a lot of room in music and the arts for bands to wear masks or whatever. It doesn't matter. There could be a million bands with masks, and Slipknot would hold its own with the way we look at the world, and the way we hold our band together, and the way we communicate with each other, and most importantly, the way we communicate with fans. So you'll never get another Slipknot. We're a one-of-a-kind band." And to clear up any confusion over who is Coq Roq and who is Slipknot, Burger King also included some of the lyrics to Bob Your Head and Cross the Road in their suit, showcasing Coq Roq, the band, proclaiming their love of chicken fries. But to quote Linkin Park, in the end, it doesn't even matter, because both parties eventually dropped their suits, and Coq Roq would soon fade away into obscurity, although there were apparently plans for them to do a full album, because that sure would have been a chart topper. And I guess, I think some of their songs, if you remember back in the day, Burger King had a number of video games that were on the Xbox 360, and I believe some of those games had some of Coq Roq's music in it. But there were also plans for the band to actually go on tour, but the actual singer of Coq Roq, I don't know who it was. I don't know if anybody's identities from that band have ever been revealed. but the guy was Canadian and he had a criminal record, so I guess he couldn't obtain a visa to come into the US and tour. So after some time, all of this completely faded away. But circling back to the very beginning of the video, in that same interview that Matt Coughtrin from the Bronx did with Kerrang, he did express that passing on this opportunity was a big regret of his, telling Kerrang, "I could be talking to you right now from a Burger King castle with my fortune. That's my biggest regret." And with the sound of the bell, that is going to do it for the very first edition of Friday Night Feuds. Thank you so much for watching. I already have a ton of these that I'm working on, but I would love to hear from you down below. Let me know what other feuds you would like to see. And while you're down there, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.